Greetings, I'm R.D. Fluke. I'd like to thank you all for checking out my free audiobook. This project has been a labor of love. I hope you enjoy Zulu 4. Chapter 4, Dispute. Wagner let off a series of profanities with his burst of fire, but a bent link in the ammo belt jammed up the machine gun on the 18th round. Before he could clear the jam, Dallas's dropkick sent him flying across the room. "What the fuck are you doing?" screamed Dallas, glaring at his idiotic subordinate. Wagner sat against the far wall, rubbing his shoulder as he spoke. "We're under attack! You heard the shot!" Dallas leapt on top of Wagner. They wrestled and rolled around as they each fired off insults at one another. Wagner tried to shove Dallas off, punching him in the mouth before Jun and Soyoung could pin down Wagner's limbs. Dallas reached for his set of flexicuffs, similar to the ones Jun used on the defector. "Never thought I'd use these on one of our own." He zipped them tighter than needed for added discomfort. Wagner wailed and cried, "What the? Let me go!" "Not a chance. That was a ricochet, and your trigger-happy ass went overboard." Wagner continued to resist their efforts to place a second set of cuffs over his wrist for good measure. Dallas and Jun sat him down against a wall, but not before Wagner spit on Dallas's right cheek. Having enough of his attitude, Dallas swung his elbow sideways into Wagner's chin. The belligerent Wagner's head leaned back, knocked out cold from the blow. Dallas stood over him and spat blood out from their skirmish. "Damn, bastard got a good hit on me." "Are you okay?" asked Jun. Dallas nodded as the radio cued. Zulu 4, cease fire immediately." "Shit, here we go." Dallas wiped the blood off his lower lip with his sleeve and picked up the handset. "Roger, Zulu 4 copies all. Wagner opened fire against my orders and we have him restrained." There was a pause on the other end. "Understood. We'll need a full write-up of the incident to go with the log in the record book. I'm sure you're aware this is gonna go high up. For the meantime, get that drone. That is your top priority. Over and out." Dallas returned his attention to the camera as pro-Hajun forces cleared the last floor. A deafening silence overwhelmed the area as the siren stopped blaring. Now minutes past midnight, the final North Korean loyalist fell. "They have taken it," began Jun. "The eastern tower has fallen." As if on cue, distant cheers arose from across the border. Dallas zoomed out to see dozens of soldiers waving their rifles in the air triumphantly. Others dragged out their wounded and deceased. Dallas leaned forward as the silhouettes tossed a body down the slope into the ravine. The corpse flailed as it tumbled down 30 feet, leaving streaks of white on the thermals. It landed atop several other corpses as Dallas tracked it to the bottom. They were speechless as they witnessed a dozen more lifeless bodies cascade into the growing heap. Dallas zoomed out to broaden the view when the radio crackled. "No need to report that, Zulu 4. We've been watching your feed." He grabbed the handset and mustered a "Roger," not noticing Jun left his side. Someone hurled from his left. Soyoung rubbed Jun's back as the latter leaned out the tower window to puke. The sounds of food chunks splattering on the ground outside became a noisy diversion. Dallas refocused on the monitors for a distraction. Only a few men remained at the tower with the wounded. He jiggled the camera further north to see the rest of the pro-Hajun forces gathering around the trucks. "They're leaving? This might be my chance." Dallas approached the 500-meter line and stopped to catch his breath behind a small hill. "This is crazy." "I agree," Jun said on his mobile radio. "I should have gone with you." "No way. I need you both back there, especially if Wagner wakes up. How far is the drone from me now? Can you guide me in?" "Yes, I see you on the camera. Give me a moment to check the rangefinder." The North Korean speaker system queued up, playing a pre-recorded message. An unknown but commanding voice blurred across the region for several seconds before looping. Unable to understand what was said, Dallas asked Jun for a translation. "It's from General Ha-jun. He asks all North Korean loyalists if they will step into a new Korea under his guidance." Is this a good or bad thing? "Okay," began Jun. "Continue northwest from your position for 1,100 meters. "Wait, did you say 1,100 meters? 1100. Did I misspeak? The drone crashed 400 meters from the North's border?" "It would appear so." Coming alone was a mistake, but I can't go back now. Dallas trudged on toward the drone. Keep going. You have another 400 meters, chirped John on the radio. Dallas bounded from bush to bush, trying his best to stay concealed over the rugged terrain. His sweat chilled quickly as it ran down his face from the cold Korean winter. In the back of his mind, a Korean sniper had him zeroed from the western tower. Roger, any update from Zulu, Maine? Nothing yet. We were just observing the eastern tower. The rebels seem to be regrouping. And oh no. What's wrong? They are performing executions. Dallas halted and dropped to the prone next to a small boulder. He deployed a thermal he'd snatched earlier and peered through the optic as rebels tossed another victim down into the ravine. Dallas followed the blood trail to the top and saw the last prisoner on his knees, surrounded by several men. Dallas flinched as the prisoner's glowing brain matter exploded outward from the shot to the back of the head. The corpse slumped forward. Then the executioner kicked it over the edge and down the slope. Having enough of the mental detour, Dallas continued toward his objective. Dallas ignored his burning calves and picked up the pace when John's voice crackled through the receiver. Rebel forces are boarding the trucks. You must hurry. They spotted the wreckage? Was I spotted? Can you tell me if they're reacting to me or the drone? He waited for a hellish eternity before John answered. I cannot say. They do not appear to be in a hurry. Dallas breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, give me updates on their movements every minute. If it looks like they are coming my way, I need to know as early as possible. Of course. 50 meters ahead of you. Roger, shouldn't be hard to spot now. He stopped and scanned his immediate area, hoping to spot the downed drone. Truck is moving, blurted John over the radio. Dallas dropped and crawled to a small crevice of microterrain he hoped would help conceal his position. Booting the thermals revealed the battery life was below half in the optic's heads-up display. He scanned and found the eastern tower in vivid detail to his northeast. The North Korean rebels left a skeleton team behind to man the taken tower. To the right of that were the convoy's headlights driving past it, toward him. Fuck. The diesel engine's signature knocking grew closer, its echoes reverberating in his helmet, as if warning him to get the hell out of there. He forced his eyes shut and held his breath. Just drive by. I'm totally not breaking the treaty by being this close. Chapter 5. Retrieval. Dallas opened his eyes as 3 sets of taillights faded away to the northwest. Released from his anxiety, he waited another minute, just in case they turned around. He flinched when his mobile radio chirped. Are you okay? Dallas cursed under his breath at the scare. I'm fine. Nearly gave me a heart attack is all. My apologies, but Zulu Maine is asking if you have retrieved the drone. Aren't they watching? I think not. Zulu 3 has reported a runner in the sector. Perhaps they are viewing the feed. Of course, no one saw that. Alright, help me find his thing so I can get out of here. He walked north several dozen paces and began scanning for the missing tech. How far am I? Less than 10 meters. Look to your 10 o'clock. Dallas spotted a small heat signature in his heads-up display. Got it. One of its 4 rotors swiveled back and forth, forever trying to correct its trajectory. The drone itself was smaller than he expected. It was as wide as a large pizza box and stacked 3 high. Its battery compartment radiated heat when he picked it up. The main body was rhombus-shaped, with 4 arms, each with a rotor for flight, 2 of which were out of commission. In its belly was no doubt the most expensive sensor package he'd ever seen, though it was only the size of a GoPro. Dallas slung his rifle and carried the drone under his right arm. Still panting from his trip out, he knelt down to catch his breath and zoomed in his thermal over to the western tower. Some 24 men took defensive positions outside and around the checkpoint. The radio blared with JSA on the line. All stations, pro-Hajun forces have taken several communication stations and are broadcasting propaganda across the country. That's nice. After a short drive, the gun truck halted and turned off its lights as the troops dismounted. 36 men ran off the dirt road using the defilade of a hill to conceal their movement. After unloading its cargo, Dallas held his breath as the gun truck crept forward, waiting for the inevitable. The gun truck openly fired its heavy guns at the machine gun nest on the third floor. The tower's loyalists retaliated with their own weapons, directing most of their ammunition at the truck. Half of the dismounted men charged at the enemy, while the others covered their movement. Both factions traded small arms fire as tracers zipped through the air. Dallas watched through the thermals as the armored gun truck drew most of the loyalist rounds, receiving a shower of tracers from the gun nest atop when the radio chirped again. "Wagner is waking up," buzzed Jun. Dallas frowned. Wagner mumbled something in the background when Jun spoke. "Great. Let's add to this shit show." "He demands to talk to you." "Fine. Put him on. What do you want, Wagner?" "Fuck you, asshole." Dallas chuckled. "Welcome back." "I'll be reporting you." The radio cut into their conversation. "All Zulu stations. Zulu 3 reports the runner is in their custody. Reinforcements have just arrived, so we'll be heading that way for prisoner escort. Zulu 1 and 2, your reinforcements are on their way. Zulu 4, you'll have to wait until we've dropped off the runner. Over and out." Dallas smiled. "Awesome, Wagner. You can report me when the commander gets here. In the meantime, stay put." He returned his attention to the laser show before him. One by one, the loyalists fell, causing the rest to fall back to the tower. The gun truck continued its heavy assault at the top, suppressing its foes. Dallas dropped as an engine roared. He glanced both ways and found a sound emanating from his northwest. One of the troop carriers plowed through a security shack, sending wooden shrapnel flying for 50 yards. It raced forward, running over a couple more loyalists before it crashed into the side of the tower. Lights inside and around the checkpoint blew out, enveloping the fight in darkness. The firefight intensified as rebel forces pushed into the checkpoint. The loyalists continued to fall back, firing as they moved. A bright streak flashed from the tower across the battle into the gun truck as it exploded. The distant explosion reverberated across the DMZ. Dallas peered through his thermals for a better view. Soldiers rushed to help potential survivors as the vehicle burned. The men fighting the flames pulled someone out of the burning wreckage. When Dallas zoomed out, a duo at the rear of the remaining troop carrier appeared. He tracked the fighters running uphill with rockets of their own, cresting the hill to line up their shots. A rebel's head snapped back and his body fell limp. Another took a knee to stabilize his aim. With a swish, the rocket landed short of the tower, instead taking out 2 loyalists behind cover. Failing his shot, the male picked up his dead friend's launcher. The last of the loyalists outside scattered when the second rocket-propelled grenade struck the nest atop of the tower, sending debris everywhere. The rebels charged at the entrance, shouting their war cries. Some loyalists barricaded themselves inside, while another person jumped out the side window unnoticed. Shortly after, another man bolted out, trailed by 2 more. Pro-Hajun forces stormed the tower, clearing out the first floor in a matter of moments. The fighting continued upstairs as those fleeing went unnoticed. 4 ran away from the fight, 1 to the east, 3 going south. The man running east was soon spotted and shot dead. Dallas panned his thermals over to the other 3, each of them tossing their rifles and shedding off their gear in order to run faster. Jun called them out. "Runners!" "I see them," said Dallas. He asked Jun for a range as he tracked them running northwest of his position. "They are 1,800 meters out." "Okay, monitor them. Tell Zulu Main that I've got the drone and I'm heading back." "Very well. You should hurry. They are just over 200 meters from you." "Shit, a foot race." Dallas let the thermals hang from his neck and tucked the drone under his right arm. He sprinted to stay ahead of the runners, weaving around bushes and vaulting over boulders. At the 1,500-meter mark, Dallas failed to clear a bush he attempted to vault over. His right boot nicked a branch, sending him face-planting on the other side. The wind knocked out of him. Dallas stumbled to get up before limping into a jog again. Hopefully no one saw that. The drone's awkward shape made it difficult to maintain speed. Dallas was thankful it was light as he called out for another range estimate. A boot slipped on some wet grass, but he kept his balance as his earpiece chirped. 1,000 meters and still trailing to your west. Got it. Thanks, he huffed. Dallas beelined for the tower's dim spotlight as if it were a beacon calling him home. His heart pounded, trying its best to meet his oxygen demand. Dallas steadied his breathing and got into a rhythm. Can't stop. Behind him, the fighting intensified. Bursts of automatic fire became more frequent. A rogue round whizzed overhead, but he shrugged it off and commanded his burning legs forward. Jun's updates served as motivation. 500 meters. Dallas didn't reply. He climbed a hill, then slid down the other side with the drone. The wet grass and slope added to his momentum toward the bottom. Having no control of his steering, he careened feet first into a large thorn bush. He rolled onto his hip to recover from getting the wind knocked out of him for the second time. Are you okay? That looked bad, radioed Jun. Trust me, it felt worse, he groaned. Dallas was slow to get up and brushed off his thorns peppering his arms and legs. Letting off some profanities, he gave a couple of hard tugs to yank the drone free from the bush. You are still transmitting, said Jun. Dallas cursed himself and dislodged his radio transmit button. He grabbed the drone by the fuselage and yanked it with all his might. Dallas fell back onto his rear end when he ripped it out with branch and all. Without losing a beat, Dallas turned and dashed toward the outpost. That minor accident doubled as a brake for his legs, but now, instead of burning cramps, he felt stings all over as he sprinted. Fuck that tree and fuck thorns. The tower grew in his view, willing him on. A well-deserved break and a gallon of water awaited him. Dallas didn't need the distant call-outs anymore. He passed the 200-meter mark and slapped the back of the sign with a high five. The exchange of gunfire behind him became an afterthought as it faded. All that mattered to him was getting to that southern tower. We see you. I'm coming down to meet you, said Jun. Dallas charged on the last stretch, ignoring the stinging sensations. His heart pounded fast and hard, seemingly ready to explode. Once there, Jun pulled away the band of concertina wire that blocked his path, creating an opening for him. Dallas ran through and collapsed on southern soil, dropping the drone in place. Jun rushed over to his friend's aid. It is good to see you again. Are you hurt? Dallas was too busy panting to respond, so he responded with a thumbs up. Jun helped him up, and together they entered the tower. Jun played with the drone while Dallas worked on his second canteen. We need to get back out there, said Jun. Those runners are approaching the 200 mark. Dallas nodded as he quenched his thirst. Above them on the third floor, Wagner leaned over the rail and demanded to be untied. Not happening, Dallas barked. You can sit tight since the commander's on his way to rip into us both. Whatever. Look, untie me so I can help you with the runners. Like it or not, we still have a job to do here. Dallas considered it, but he noticed the slightest shake of Jun's head when he caught his glance. He's right. I can't trust Wagner. The radio wailed. All Zulu stations, we've reached Zulu 3, are in the process of transporting their runners back to the patrol base. Looks like we're on our own for a little while longer. Chapter 6. They just reached the 100-meter mark, radioed Dallas to the commander. Roger. Keep your eyes on and stand by to intercept them. We're almost back at base. Keep us updated on your situation. Over and out. Dallas set the handset down and rubbed his face. I can't wait for this night to end. You gonna untie me or what? Asked Wagner, sitting cross-legged with arms behind his back. Nope. You're too much of a liability. Oh, come on. Those runners are almost here. What if they're suicidal? Maybe they want to take this tower. Maybe it's an invasion. You need me back on that gun. Dallas shook his head. That's exactly what I don't need. Wagner scoffed. Soyoung shouted something and gestured at the western tower. The western tower has fallen, translated Jun. The runners had distracted Dallas so much that he completely overlooked the assault. He zoomed out and panned a camera north to the fallen tower. Several tracers raced into the night sky from the north. Dallas adjusted the angle on the camera to see the men waving their firearms into the air as they cheered. The pro-Hajun rebels took both guard towers within 2 hours. With the firefight over, silence fell. giving way to faint cries for help. "They are closing in. We must prepare ourselves," said Jun. Dallas reoriented the camera back on the men and checked the range. "Okay, Jun, same as last time. Let's apprehend them and get them inside the holding cell. I'll grab us some extra cuffs." Dallas and Jun stood at the ready some 20 paces in front of their tower. Nervous, Dallas distracted himself with his watch. Just past 2. Barely halfway done the night. Fuck me. Why can't nothing ever be easy? 3 men approached with their arms up through Dallas's grainy green night vision. At a distance of 50 feet, Jun instructed them to halt. As the other 2 stood back, he had the first man walk up slowly. Dallas trained his rifle on the defector in case he tried anything. Jun instructed the man to turn and put his hands behind his back. After searching him, Jun cuffed the prisoner and led him to the small holding cell within their tower, leaving Dallas alone with the other 2, while Soyoung manned the bunker with the machine gun ready. "Hey, the radio!" cried Wagner. Before they left, they sat him at the camera controls with arms still cuffed behind his back. At the least, he can relay any mistransmissions. Not taking his eyes off the 2 defectors, Dallas asked aloud about the message. Jun rounded the corner and returned alongside Dallas as Wagner began. "Maine is reporting Hajun forces have arrived at JSA, armor and all. They haven't engaged yet with the Loyalists. Our Hajun forces have taken several outposts along the DMZ. "Keep us updated," yelled Dallas. "1 down, 2 to go," said Jun. "So far so good. Let's take our time. Do it right." Jun nodded, then repeated the process with the second male. Jun cuffed the malnourished man's trembling wrist, then guided him inside as Wagner called out again. "Radio says enemy armor is approaching several outposts on the northern side." "What type of armor?" asked Dallas, looking beyond the last man toward the 2 northern towers. His limited night vision hindered him from identifying distant armored targets. "Didn't say," answered Wagner. From behind, Soyoung shouted frantically when Jun returned. Dallas looked to Jun for an explanation. "He says several men loaded onto a truck, and it is heading this way." Dallas frowned. "Okay, let's hurry with this last guy and report this." Cuffing the man, Dallas noticed an unusual insignia on the defector's collar. "This one looks important." The man smiled malevolently at him as Jun took him away. Dallas peered north. The truck's headlights gleamed in the distance. "What's this about?" "Roger. We copy at 0207 your snatcher team took in 3 runners. What's their sit rep?" radioed the commander. "We locked them inside our holding cell with food and water," said Dallas. "Roger, Zulu 4, stand by. We're departing now and en route to your position." "Understood. Also, be advised that the truck heading our way has passed the kilometer mark." "Solid copy, Zulu 4. Find out what they want and keep us updated." "Roger. Zulu 4 out." Wagner laughed maniacally from behind. "I bet they're gonna assault us just like they did those other towers. We're so fucked. Unless you get me back on that gun." "Shut the hell up, Wagner." "Shit, what if he's right, though? Reinforcements are almost 2 kilometers away. With only 3 of us defending, we won't last long." Dallas kicked Wagner off the controls, sitting him down on the concrete floor. Jun stood behind Dallas on the console. "What's the plan?" asked Jun. Dallas shrugged. "Don't have one, but we'll treat this as a runner situation. Let's keep Soyoung on the gun and put Wagner back on surveillance. Cuff him to the station so he has one free hand to answer the radio this time." "Works for me," said Jun. "Not for me," countered Wagner. "You don't have a choice. If they're attacking, you need to alert command." "Look, it's slowing down," said Jun, pointing at the monitor. Dallas narrowed his eyes, then looked north at the creeping truck. What are they up to? 15 minutes later, the truck crept up to the 200-meter marker and came to a halt. 5 soldiers dismounted from the rear, with a 6th from the truck's cab. They were fully kitted and well armed. One carried an RPG across his back. They stopped in front of the vehicle. The last man, the leader, reached inside the cab. A loudspeaker hissed with static. Then a calm voice spoke a short, curt message. "What did he say?" asked Dallas. Several heartbeats passed before Jun answered him. "He says, 'Do not shoot.'" The 6 walked toward the southern side of the border. "They look ready for a fight," said Wagner. Dallas ignored the comment. He locked the camera on the heat signatures to capture the interaction. They recuffed Wagner to the station's metal desk, leaving one hand free for the radio. When the men passed the 100-meter mark, Dallas radioed in. "Zulu Main, this is Zulu 4. These truckers are armed and within 100 meters. Sending out a snatcher team." "Copy all, Zulu 4. Approach with caution. We're bypassing Zulu 3 now. We should be there soon." not soon enough. Dallas whispered a prayer to himself as he checked the rifle's chamber. The brass cartridge shined white in the tower's fluorescent lights. He gulped and turned to his South Korean partner. Okay, Judd, let's go.